Hi, you guys. I want to revisit the topic of body count because obviously because I have a high body count, and also because there's a lot of teaching in the manosphere that women with a high body count, meaning any number higher than two, are a threat to their attachment in the relationship. They're more likely to cheat on you. They're more likely to divorce you, and they have some kind of issues. um, I think it comes from these men more from their own childhood trauma of abandonment wounds, because there's some couples that have never even asked each other what their body count is because they feel securely attached and they're present in their relationship. So I just think if body count is this thing, the people are obsessed with it have, I think, underlying attachment issues. I can totally see that you don't want to date someone who's promiscuous. I could see that, but what they did in the past, I don't know why that's so important. Now, I have heard from guys who are like, no one would ever want to date an escort, and that's fine. I don't, I allow all kinds of commentary on here. As long as it's respectful and not accusatory, you can disagree with me. And that's me also modeling to you that you can be appreciated and that you're valuable, even if you don't agree with me. Because if you have to agree with me for you to have a voice, then I would be being grandiose and controlling. And I do not want to be that. So as long as you're respectful, you can say whatever your opinion is. And also, as a life coach, I have to be non-judgmental and accepting of other viewpoints. And I think we need more of that in this country. We don't need all these divisions. So we all have different preferences. Now, this particular commenter, which I pinned on this body count video, he likes promiscuous women. He's married, and he likes promiscuous women because he thinks they're more in tune with their bodies and their sexuality. He and his wife live the hot wife lifestyle, and needless to say, I am a very happy man who is more than content with my wife's ever-rising body count. So I asked him if he would share something more about it and why he doesn't get jealous. And then he asked, would you like me to answer the questions here or email you? Would an email be more appropriate? So he's very respectful. And I asked for him to do it here so that everyone could read it, but also to give a boundary. Like, I didn't know if he was going to try to sext me or something. So I don't like, since he wasn't asking for coaching advice, I asked him to leave it there. And that way everybody could read it. So for those two reasons. And he did. He got back to me. So here he goes. He said, the primary drive for me is I love my wife and want her to be sexually liberated and for her needs to be fulfilled. I love that. It is important for me that she has the freedom in our marriage to explore her sexuality wherever and to whomever that journey may take her. Then he says that he gets satisfaction and pleasure from knowing that his partner experienced sexual or romantic pleasure with another person. So he selfishly derives great pleasure in knowing, watching, and listening to her receiving pleasures from others. So the lifestyle is a total win-win for them, as their marriage is only open on her side and closed on his. I could totally go for something like that because I do get jealous. As for some of the common myths of the lifestyle, we are madly in love with one another and have been married with children for over a decade. In my real life, and then another myth is that these guys are like sissies or wimps, but that's not true. It depends on what turns you on sexually and how secure you are in the type of relationship you have. In my real life in the vanilla world, I've always been an alpha male, but behind closed doors, I prefer to be submissive to dominant females. So our marriage is definitely a female-led relationship. Then he explains the definition of hot wife. A happily married woman who has the freedom and support from her husband to pursue positive sexual relationships with other men outside their marriage. Her husband has full knowledge of her activities and encourages them. The level of trust and understanding required often brings the couple closer and makes the marriage even stronger, more intimate, and more hot. I can tell you, my ex-husband and I did like some swinging for 6 months, and then both of us were like, we don't really like this, but it does increase your like arousal constantly, which is what we didn't like about it. And so that probably wouldn't be my preference, but let's continue reading. Okay. As to the topic of body count, if you were to take the average guy and put him in the average bar on an average Friday night, his chances of taking home a woman for a sexual encounter is at best 50-50. Whereas if you were to put an average woman in that same average bar on the same average Friday night, her chances are almost guaranteed to be 100% that she won't be going home alone. It's a numbers game. There are far more promiscuous men looking for casual encounters than there are women, so women have a higher rate of success to have casual partners than men's, hence their higher body counts. Most men will be intimidated by their partner's body count, as it will be higher than their own. So, to compensate for their own insecurity, they will resort to slut shaming. Hey, I'm buying into this. 100% buying into what he's saying here. I don't have underarm hair. It's just the shadow. Okay, it is a continuation of the double standard the world over throughout history, that it's socially acceptable for men to be promiscuous, but women are supposed to save themselves for marriage. A man will be labeled a stud for his sexual exploits, while a woman will be labeled a whole host of demeaning slurs to denote that she has had multiple sexual partners. It's hypocrisy, and thankfully I'm beginning to see a shift, but I don't think we'll ever be totally rid of this double standard. The other reason jealous men are obsessed with their partner's body count is they believe that if a woman has had multiple partners, then she'll always be comparing him to all of them. I find this myth laughable, as that is human nature for both men and women to contrast and compare various life experiences to include their sexual ones. Again, a double standard. By the way, in the manosphere, the body count guys, they're the ones talking about spinning plates. It's like, I'll do it, not you. But most of those guys, I think, have a bad relationship with their moms, so they have abandonment issues, and they find women who cheat on them, and cheating is a form of dishonesty and lack of integrity, lack of accountability, lack of authenticity, and lack of intimacy. So that doesn't have anything to do with the number of sexual partners, how you conduct yourself, what kind of person you are. It's not necessarily lumped. It's like, but let's continue. As for why I do not get jealous of my wife's ever-rising body count, from the very beginning when I first met my wife, she felt she could open up to me and not be judged as she would have been by previous partners. This is very important because this is super important in the bedroom, because the moment people feel judged, they're not going to tell you what they want, and they'll stop even knowing themselves what they want. It's the biggest libido killer of all, is to judge yourself or feel your partner will judge you about your desires and about your fantasies. And then your relationship is not a safe space, in my opinion. In fact, I would become highly aroused whenever we would discuss her past experiences. Also, I realized the numbers game long ago, that it was just natural for women to have a larger number of previous partners than men. So it never bothered me or made me feel jealous, insecure, or inferior in any way. I hope this answers your questions. And again, I apologize for the delayed response. And I said, I really enjoyed reading your response. What I observed from reading it is a man who is securely attached, generous in spirit, relational, and in touch with his sexuality. This is in stark contrast to some of the comments on here, such as, nobody will want you, you're such a slut, because I get those too. It's so interesting to me how the views on one issue can be so opposite. I'm going to make a video reading your comment, and that's what I did. That's what I'm doing. I want to say something else about encouraging a woman's sexuality, because there's a sex therapist that I had coffee with some years ago, and he had been married twice, and he and his wife would have, they had a monogamous relationship, but they found it would get very stale. So every 3 months they would have like a woman, I think it was a woman that they brought in for a threesome, and it would spice up their relationship for 3 months. And that was good because they were married like over 20 years. And when I was talking to him, I guess I was in my early 50s and he was my age, but he tended to go for these very younger women in their 20s, who saw him like as a daddy figure or something, I guess. But he told me that what he learned to look for, when we met for coffee, he asked me to wear no perfume because he likes to notice a woman's natural scent. Okay, so I did that. And he also told me that when he first starts dating a woman, he'll ask her, and he didn't ask me because we weren't dating, but he asked her how often she masturbates. And that lets him know the level of her libido. I'm dropping some hints here for you men, because if she doesn't masturbate, she's not going to want to have sex very much with you, except in the first 2 years when it's all new and exciting. Then she's going to drop back to her baseline. If she's not comfortable masturbating or talking about it with you, you might have someone who's sexually repressed or who was sexually abused, and it's going to impact your relationship a lot. So he wants to know, what is her actual sex drive? That's good to know, because remember, when a woman first meets you and is turned on by you, she's going to want a lot of sex, but then it's going to fall off depending on her own libido and how the relationship is going and how good you are in bed. So number one, he asks, how often do you masturbate? Number two, the first time they have sex, the very first thing he asks, I don't know if it's in bed or wherever, he says, what's your nasty? And by doing that, he's opening the door to your sexuality, and all of its dark corners are welcome here. Welcome with me. I can hold it. I welcome it. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not shaming you. Anything is possible sexually with me. And he just emanated that. And now I'm a woman who wears a bra always. I have very small breasts. I don't know if you can see. Okay. But I wear a bra in public. But somehow around him, I felt so free. I told one of my friends that I wanted her to meet him because he was such a cool guy. And around him, I just felt so free. So I wore this very nice tank top, a very elegant tank top. It was all fully covered. But I went braless. And I think you could maybe see my nipples a little bit. But I felt, I wouldn't have done that going out by myself. But I did that. There's certain clothing, I dress very modestly, but if I'm on a date or with a man, I may dress a little more sexually because he's got me and I feel safe in his presence. I don't feel like I'll be sexualized by other men, like I'm safe because I'm with him, if that makes sense. Like, safe from stares and objectification stares. Or looking like I'm trying to like be slutty, looking like a slut. I don't want to look like a slut. So I wore a braless top. I'm like, what's come over me? But around him, I felt so free. He had other things about him that were very free-like, very empowered, and I really liked his open attitude. I found that very attractive. Now, when I got married to my ex-husband back in the 80s, and I was married 25 years, I had done a 6-month stint as an escort, and he knew about it. We never talked about it. It wasn't even an issue. Like, he didn't care about that. So, here's the thing though. It's very important, especially if you have a high body count or if you have something like I have a friend who got herpes in, I think, in high school from her boyfriend. And every time she dated a guy, he would shame her for that, make a big deal about it, that she was so dirty or something. And she stayed with him. Like, whereas other people get herpes as kids just from like drinking water. It's not even, it can be sexually transmitted, but it doesn't have to be, because you can also just get it from like a cup or touching someone or kissing your aunt. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're with someone who's shaming you sexually for something about your past or anything about your desires, anyway, as I was saying, just be around people who love and appreciate you for who you are and what you want out of a relationship. Don't be around people who shame you for your past or what you want now, because that's not loving and it's not relational. So anyway, I really appreciate this comment. Let's see. Here are some more comments. When I was younger, I didn't care at all about body count. This is a gentleman named Billy Bob. As I've gotten older now in my early 40s, I only care if I was planning to get serious with someone or for marriage potential. And a lady, Sunbuck, says, I didn't know about body count until I watched your videos. Samuel says, some people just need lots of practice. So I think overall, the men on here are saying that they prefer women who are experienced. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, if you have any questions or things you want me to make videos on, drop it in the comments. And thank you for watching my video.